Your CI pipeline needs to focus on building and testing code and publishing packages. But you'll often find the steps that start releases of those packages in a CD process make their way into your CI pipelines. Now, wouldn't it be great if releases could start automatically based on events you define, like commits to a new Git repository, or based on a schedule, or maybe when there are changes to resources in a package feed? Well, today, I want to explore project triggers in Octopus Deploy. With project triggers, you can set up exactly those automations that create releases based on specific events or schedules. This changes the model from a push-based approach where your CI workflow notifies Octopus Deploy to perform a release, and instead makes it a pull model where Octopus Deploy is watching for specific events and acts when those events trigger. When triggers are combined with channels and lifecycles, triggers can also start the deployment of those releases to environments that you define based on version rules and lifecycle policies, all without manual intervention. People like triggers as your deployment automation logic lives where it probably makes sense, which is in your deployment tool, rather than scattered around different CI pipelines. Unlike CI-based releases that require someone to run a build, triggers respond to the events that you define that are actually relevant for deployments. Let me show you through this in Octopus Deploy, and I'll choose the random quotes project because I know that one's using a package. On the left are triggers, and I don't have any yet, so I'll add a new trigger. This shows you the types of triggers you can set up today, which cover a lot of use cases. Let's go with an external feed, and there's only a few options this trigger needs. I'll call it new Docker image, and if you want, you can add a description for the trigger. As I scroll down, the trigger action is very important, with the first thing you define being the channel to use when selecting packages for the release. We don't have time in this video to explore channels and lifecycles, but let me quickly open channels in another tab, as this is important. I've only got one channel in this project, but I want to quickly highlight this is where the relationship with a lifecycle is set, and a lifecycle gives you control over the way releases of your software are promoted between your environments. The channel is where you can configure package version rules to restrict which versions can be used on steps when creating releases. So you'll notice back on the trigger, there's nowhere to filter which versions of the package automatically create a release, but that can be done in the associated channel configuration. The last thing to configure is which packages will be used to trigger release creation. My process in this project only uses one package, which is a container image on Docker Hub, but if you were using multiple packages, including any Helm charts, they would show as selectable objects here. That's really all we need, so I'll save the trigger, which is now active and watching that package for any changes. Over in the build tool, I'm using GitHub, I've made a change to the source code, and I'm manually going to kick off a build pipeline to build a new version of the container and push it to Docker Hub. That's all it's doing. This pipeline isn't reaching out at all to Octopus Deploy. That'll take a few minutes, so let's go back to Octopus and we'll keep an eye on this page. And look at that. After a couple of minutes, the image was pushed to Docker Hub, and this trigger was executed as it noticed a new version of the package was available from the feed. The outcome is that a new release has been created in Octopus, and it also tells us here what the last release was that was created by this trigger. If I jump over to releases, you can see that new release of 0.0.11, which, as per the release notes, was created by the external feed trigger and has the new version of the package included in the release. This is now ready to be deployed to my environments, and if I had automatic deployments configured in my lifecycle, the actual deployments would have also started immediately after the release was automatically created by the trigger. As usual, we've got a lot of information in our official documentation for all the different trigger types to help you get started, as well as some great blog posts unpacking some of these triggers in more detail. All of that is linked below for you. I hope you've enjoyed this dive into automating your deployments with triggers. Go ahead and check them out today, and I'll see you in the next one.